Sun is shining and it's cool inside, so it's really
Thank God
nice.
for air conditioning, right?
So we're gonna start the service with the song called "This Is the Day," and if you'd please rise and join with us to bring up the spirit for Reverend Karen's message, we'd really appreciate it. So we're gonna get us started. You ready?
Ready.
I think I'm ready. Yeah, now I'm ready.
Okay. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that with me. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Can feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Woo!
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Sue Witter. I'm one of the practitioners here, and I'd like to welcome you and thank you for taking time out of your busy day and life to stop, slow down, and honor the truth of who you are. So we're grateful that you're here, and I have a few announcements to start with. We have a sound meditation that is coming up on Sunday, August 18th after service. And if you were at the last one, you will know your whole body leaves with this excitement afterwards. And there's a $20 love donation, and we have the morning meditation and evening Reiki centers that are available information online. And then Wellness Wednesday is from 1 to 2. And there's a flyer in the bookstore. And we have, actually, Kelly and Veronica, why don't you come up and do 2 announcements? One for that and one for the other. That way you get to tell them about everything.
Great idea. Tell them, give them more information on that.
That's right. Wellness Wednesday.
Do you want to talk Wellness Wednesday?
Join us every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We have different speakers on different wellness topics. This week is on the happiness hormones dose. So join us for that. And then this Saturday, does anyone know what the 4th Saturday is?
Afternoon.
There you go, Crafternoon. But this month,
We're
there you go.
there's Wellness Wednesday.
Oh, very clever. Oh, she's good.
So this Saturday we're having a special Crafternoon.
Mic close to your mouth.
Oh, sorry. We're having a special Crafternoon. Kirsten, who isn't here right now, is pregnant. Little baby girl, Oceana, sits in the back. She's going to have a new baby brother. So we're doing a crafter shower. We've got onesies to decorate. We've got bibs to decorate. We've got games. We've got
Little baby hats.
little baby hats, little baby gloves, little baby blankets, all kinds of stuff. And we're going to decorate them, and it's going to be fun. We're doing it for donation just to pay off the onesies and stuff. Please come.
Is that a picture of the new
That's
baby?
the baby.
That's what I kept looking up for.
Yep.
There's the baby boy on his way. So.
He doesn't have a name yet, so we're going to make some suggestions too. It starts at 12:30. It is potluck.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's a baby shower. But, when?
It's 12:30.
It's at 12:30 on the 27th, next Saturday. Yeah.
It is the shower.
Yeah, we're doing an open crafter shower. Yeah. So, so yeah. Hope to see you guys there.
Thank you. I wish I was not working on Wednesday afternoon. I would love to come to that Wellness Wednesday on Joy Hormones. Doesn't that sound fun? Makes me want to do something. Anyway, so Reverend Susan, you're still doing drumming?
Yeah, but we had it yesterday.
Oh, it's just, that's right. This is the third week. Never mind. You just can't always count on me to know what day and time it is. Anyway, so that's it. We have a lot of activities. We have classes coming up in September. Please come and join us for any of the activities. I will tell you that the connection that you feel when you're at here doing something, it just makes a huge difference. So thank you all, and I think it's time now to simply take a deep breath and have the Bradfords get us ready for the meditation and the service.
So just take a deep breath, relax as we move within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I I will make a quiet place.
Infinite loving God, the divine wisdom, the beauty and the joy and the peace and the fun and the laughter and all these beautiful, wonderful things are God. And as I know this of God, I know this of myself. And I know this of each and every one of you, that you are a divine presence, an absolute wonderful being. And you have each and every one of those qualities within you. So right here and now, I call forth those qualities of God, because I know I am one. And it is that beauty and divine energy and absolute love, pure perfection flowing through you. I know this and I see this. And I honor and accept this, because that is the truth of each and every one of us. We are grateful for Karen this fine morning. Reverend Karen has an absolutely wonderful talk prepared. And I invite each and every one of you to open your minds and your hearts to what is being shared with you today. With peace and joy in my heart, I am so grateful, and I release this word into the universal law, knowing it is done unto each and every one of us right here, right now. And together we say, and so it is. Good morning. Today's reading is from 417 of the Science of Mind textbook, paragraph 2. To assert our individuality is to rise above the law of averages into that more highly specialized use of the law, which brings freedom rather than bondage, joy rather than grief, and wholeness instead of sickness. We cannot do this unless we are first willing to judge not according to appearances. In this judging, not according to appearances, we are impressing the law with a new idea of ourselves, a less limited idea. We are learning to think independently of any existing circumstance. This is what is meant by eternally entering the absolute. And I invite you today to listen to Karen's words, and Reverend Karen, and with what I shared, it's going to be a great talk. So take some time to digest it all, and have a great day.
So today's talk is on Perfectly Imperfect. So I picked this song, Just the Way You Are. And I think it's kind of neat how everybody's different. We can learn from each other. I think it would be boring if everyone was the same.
We're different.
Ready? Don't go changing to try and please me. You never let me down before. Don't imagine you're too familiar, and I don't see you anymore. I would not leave you in times of trouble. We never could have come this far. I took the good times, I'll take the bad times. I'll take you just the way you are. Don't go trying some new fashion. Don't change the color of your hair. You always have my unspoken passion, although I might not seem to care. I don't want clever conversation. I never want to work that hard. Ooh, I just want someone that I can talk to. I want you just the way you are. I need to know that you will always be the same old someone that I knew. Oh, what will it take till you believe in me the way that I believe in you? I said I love you, that's forever, and this I promise from the heart. I couldn't love you any better. I love you just the way you are.
That was beautiful. That was really well done. Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Whoa, we have so much going on all the time. The one thing I want to add to what Sue Witter was speaking about was that, yes, she's a practitioner now, but on August 18th? August 21st, she takes her oral panel. She's already passed all the exams, 10 long, 3-hour each exams. And now she has to go through the last hoop after all the training. And we will be able to call her Reverend then. I've been doing it for years, but there are some legal things attached to it. So we're waiting for that day, but we will be celebrating her and this grand achievement on September 1st. That's a Sunday morning. And we will have a beautiful festive celebration in Papke Hall after the service and a little formality during the service to welcome her into the REV before her name. So you got this. We're very proud. I, for one, have been working for years trying to get her into seminary. Woo, success, finally. So good morning, good morning. I'm Reverend Karen Rice if you're visiting for the first time, and hello everybody online. The talk indeed is a powerful, interesting topic this morning, perfectly imperfect. And what a good song that was to go along with everything that needs to be said today. And this is one of those a series of talks that comes from our home office, Centers for Spiritual Living. And when they give a theme for the month, they have that theme in the Science of Mind magazine as well. So this magazine you'll see is the current issue. And the title on it is Practice Makes Perfect. So all month long, Centers for Spiritual Living all over the world have been looking at this topic of how can we look at the idea that we really are perfectly imperfect just as we are. Flaws and quirks and personality defects, all of it still allows us to be just who we are. We're looking at The Gifts of Imperfection, which is a book title from Brene Brown, and Brene Brown has just done the most magnificent work, in my opinion, in helping us look at this topic of the way that it's just a part of the whole package to acknowledge that, why do we think we got to look like some model, or how white should your teeth be before they're white enough? That it scares me sometimes. And so I found a quote that the Centers for Spiritual Living has recommended from Tara Brach. Tara Brach is an old favorite of mine. You probably have studied under her, I'm going to guess, because she works with, name that other woman.
She works regularly with Jack Kornfield.
Okay, well that makes sense to me because she's a Buddhist. She's an American Buddhist. She's about my age. I didn't realize she was that old. That wise with all those years under her. No, but the other one you say all the time when you went to. We'll talk later. It's not important. Kirsten Neff, whatever, however you say that name. So Tara Brach is this American Buddhist who has published lots of books, and she's a psychotherapist and does really beautiful work with this Buddhist flavor in her therapeutic skills. And the quote that CSL picked for us to share with you is so good. Rather than striving for perfection, we can discover how to love ourselves into our wholeness. Pretty simple, short and sweet. Rather than striving for perfection, it's time for us to begin to language all of that in a different way. That even if you're under the weather, there's something in you that desires to reveal a wholeness that you're not experiencing in that very moment. The baby has arrived. Yay! You missed your announcement. It was really good, and we had a picture on the screen, so turn around and look. Everybody look at the pregnant Kirsten quickly. That is the woman we will be honoring on Saturday, and holding the baby is her grandma. So we're looking at this topic of wholeness. Don't we feel whole and complete now that the baby's here? And yeah, we're all together again. It's great. And I love the idea that the term wholeness is getting to be more common. People other than New Thought, Science of Minders, or Unity Church, a lot of us use that term and have used it for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. The philosophers of antiquity have been talking about it. But now we're starting to see a bigger picture. We even say things like holistic health. We're looking at those ways that there's this beautiful body-mind connection, and there's always more to any situation than what appears to be going on, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And we find that in the roots of different religious traditions, there is a theme that speaks to this idea of wholeness. So in the Christian Bible, for example, there are conversations about the way that we are healed in terms of being made whole. And specifically, we look at the idea that when Jesus would perform miracles, people would often come to him and say, Lord, would please heal me of this blindness or this lameness, whatever it was. And he would say, do you believe you can be healed? And they would say yes. And then his response to them was then, by your faith, you are made whole. So sometimes it depends on what scriptural translation you're reading, but I love that idea. By your faith, you are made whole. And that is true for all of us. All the time, no matter what we're going through, whether it's a financial crisis or our concern about the world, we are healed, by our faith in wholeness, in understanding that belief in the power that's greater than we are is the very thing that allows that perfection, the divine perfection, to overcome anything that would appear to be opposite. In the Jewish faith, here was something very interesting. In the Jewish faith, the word shalom translates to peace. We have it on our peace poles. But the word shalom, S-H-A-L-E-M, it looks like. Trusting I typed it properly. Shalom comes from the very same root as shalom, and one means peace, but the way that shalom is defined, it was a very clear designation of the whole stones, the perfectly square whole stones that were used for the altars when they were building these altars in those biblical days. And so they were uncut. That was the word they used. Whole and uncut stones. So I love that connection that with this idea of peace, the inner peace that we desire to calm ourselves down and feel safe in the world or in our lives, that peace is a direct derivative of that word wholeness in that Jewish sort of depiction. I love that. The Buddhists have a belief that there is no separated self. This now starts to ring a flavor of A Course in Miracles for me. And that would be because Helen Schucman, who scribed The Course in Miracles, did add that Buddhist flavor to it. But in the Buddhist belief, the human beings are this gorgeous sort of a conglomeration of the physical and the emotional and the cognitive parts of our being as well. So cognitive is mind, right? And that each of these, through the eye of the Buddhist, each of these is a part of the whole, that we in that way, body, mind, spirit, however you want to play with those words, we now are looking at like that's an ecosystem in our own living. That we need to use our minds, that we need our emotions, that we need our spiritual ideas and connection in that intimate way. And we need the physical bodies that we are given in this incarnation, in this life that we're living as human beings. So body and mind are one complete whole then, and we have a very big emphasis in this teaching on the body-mind connection. And in fact, we sometimes see that the older religious scientists would use the term mental healing. Dr. Holmes often in the Science of Mind textbook would talk about mental healing. And so we lean into that cognitive side of healing by use of how we think, and that everything we teach here is based on that. And yet we do not deny any of the others. We really speak to this idea of packaging it all together and knowing that there's always more going on in our experience of life. So in this way, I was pondering this, and I think that one of the great gifts we get from the study of Buddhism, I'm so happy to see that it's sort of trickling into the West, that we've embodied it in so many beautiful ways in terms of healing and therapeutically and all the ways that we look at personal growth. But the gift from Buddhism is that emotional healing, because think of it, Buddhism starts with the concept of suffering, and what will you do? How will you choose to keep suffering? And can we live a life without all that, so much suffering? That then emotional healing from a Buddhist perspective is directly connected to spiritual awakening, to the way we're spiritually inspired, and that then continues to help us recognize the way we are already perfect, whole, and complete. In other words, everything comes together for the good of the whole. And that's what we teach when we're looking at prayer or the creative process, whatever it is. Now, I'm not sure if it's a coincidence or if the trending that's happened in terms of our well-being is moving us in this direction or not. But I'm noticing in my own personal study that I'm bumping into a lot of conversation around somatic healing. And somatic healing has to do with the body. So one definition I found said it's a body-centric approach to healing, but it's very inclusive of ways that we can look to heal past traumas, or that we can look to start relieving the stress that we're carrying around in our bodies. And I would just suggest to you, if you haven't noticed, you're probably carrying a little more stress than you did a year ago, right? And from that, we could say that was more stress than from pre-lockdown. And that continues to grow. We therefore want to look at what we can do to be proactive. We want to look for ways to calm down that internal conflict as much as possible. So the gorgeous gift of somatic healing is that it includes all kinds of ways of healing. Now, we know if you go to the doctor, which we totally promote here, the doctor will look for a medical way to treat the symptoms that you present with. If you go to a counselor for therapy, there are different types of education that counselors study under, and they have different things they prefer. But CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, is where the therapist teaches you to do science of mind. You get it for free here on Sundays. And it's the idea is that we say it all the time, you've got this stinking thinking, what do you do about it? And you learn to notice it first, but that's just the beginning. Once you notice it, then you can be intentional in redirecting your thinking, so you're creating and establishing a new atmosphere of thought in your own mind and in the way you show up in life. So the thing that's really cool for me about somatic healing is that it uses all those modalities that we used to just say were kind of new agey, but now they're gaining more credibility. So we know that things such as dancing, music in general, we know that breath work, oh my goodness, I believe that might be the most important thing. We just need to learn to breathe again, because we're all so tense all the time that we're breathing very shallow, and that's not a good way for things to circulate healthily in our bodies. So breath work or sound, we're having what do we call it? The healing bowl, we're having a sound healing here on the 18th, and that's a gorgeous experience. I like to bring a yoga mat or something, or a towel or something, so that if you want to, you can sit in a chair. But if you want to stretch out on the floor, it's such an amazing experience to feel the vibrations move through you. And all the other things like tapping and there's so many alternative healing techniques and healing modalities that we have access to. But the thing is, what I'm really sensing is, and this is why I say it's either trending or it's some kind of synchronicity going on, that I'm starting to notice it and put it all together. We are leaning into more and more ways of healing past traumas that we carry in our body, and the stress that might not even be our stress that we just bump into because we live in the world. I love that quote that was in your reading, Reverend Susan, 51%. We rise above 51% of the population as we sit in spiritual practice. So the spiritual practice on Thursdays that we do right here in the sanctuary in the dark with candles lit, there's beautiful music. It's very much aligned to this idea of somatic healing. It gives you an opportunity to practice meditation, mindfulness, and to participate in a minor little ritual where you get up out of your chair if you want to. You don't have to, and then you are able to. I always say it's ritual and ceremony is the way that we integrate body and soul together. The soul desires to experience spiritual things in such a fashion, and so that's the way that we do that. So we do that, and I believe it's why I was called to start that sort of midweek. I consider it like a midweek healing service, and it's just, I love it. I love having to do that every Thursday. It's fabulous. But getting back to the idea of the Buddhist input, I wanted to acknowledge that today, July 21st, is actually Dharma Day. It is a day of celebration in the Buddhist faith. And it honors what they consider to be the first sermon that the Buddha, once he was awakened and enlightened, was the first sermon that he ever gave, and they call it the Sermon in Deer Park. And this is the time where the Buddha brought forward to the people and began teaching the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. And so I doubt that it's accurate, because that was a long time ago to have preserved the day, but I love that they chose a date. And so in the Buddhist population, this is a day where people are giving thanks, expressing gratitude toward this idea of Buddhism, and they are studying the Dharma, because that's what the day honors, is the teaching. It's sort of a remarkable story when you consider that Buddha, many of us know that the story begins where he was born into a wealthy family, and his family wanted nothing more than to protect him from what existed outside the walls of the palace that he lived in. And so he came of age, and he really wanted to know, and he witnesses firsthand illness and aging and death. And then he goes on this great adventure to make sense out of life, because that would be pretty chaotic to think that everything was just perfect from that perception, and then to see that everything on the other side of the wall was not so perfect. How do you reconcile that? And what we also know is that this would have been someone who, Buddha, as a mortal man, before he was Buddha, Siddhartha, was in a caste system. So it would have been highly irregular for him to leave that lifestyle and do the things that he did. And from his experiences, he says in his own telling of this story, or so it's written, that he woke up from the delusions that he had been living. And when he awakened from the stuff he hadn't acknowledged before, he grew in compassion. And that's a key in what we're looking at. And then he, of course, not only, when you grow in compassion, then you want to pass the word. Then you become a religious zealot and try and get everybody to join your church, because it's so good, you want everybody to have that much goodness. So to be perfectly imperfect, I think, is really key to this story. It's about us waking up to the delusion that we are less than whole. I loved that prayer, and I loved the way the reading did it. Could you hear in her voice, you are more than what you have thought. So we're talking about holistic living in that broad way where we find a way to harmonize or balance in our own life our physical being, our emotional being, our mental being, and our spiritual being. It then creates sort of a multi-dimensional aspect of wellness, because we have thought that to be well simply meant you weren't sick. And wellness is not the absence of illness. It is much more than that. It is the melding of the body, mind, and soul, and finding the harmony of those things, and being able to see life from a different perspective. And each of those things, emotional and physical and mental and spiritual, each of those things plays a part in your well-being. So what that tells me is, if I go to the doctor's going to look at the physical. He's going to look to see what's out of alignment in this body, what needs to be readjusted in some way so that the life force can flow through me, and I can then demonstrate that wholeness. But if my mind is upset about one another thing, or my emotions are reacting, or my spiritual, that I'm doubting what I once believed spiritually, you can see that any of those things gets out of order. You cannot have that same center of gravity in the overall general well-being of your life. So to be well, I have to feed my I have to feed my mind in a positive way. I have to be inspired. I know that about myself, and you need to know what things are most vital to you. I know I need to pay attention to my body, and that where I drop the ball is that I don't move it. I don't exercise or move it, and I know that. So it's always on the forefront of my mind that this is something I'm really wanting to pull in, and especially as you age, it gets harder. It feels less inviting, and it's hot outside. Who wants to take a walk? And I don't want to get up that early, and all of that. It's too hard. It's still, she said it's air conditioned. I don't know what. The gym, do you know, are you speaking of a gym? Yes. Okay, well, but then you would have to. Okay, moving. Do you see how quick I'm ready to argue for my limitation? This is what it means. I say this and nobody understands what I mean, but do you see me beginning to argue for my limitation? I don't want to. And it gets whiny because that's how it feels inside of me. That was lovely. Thank you for that, Janice. We pay attention to things. I enjoy eating well. I know that it's important for me to nurture my emotional health, which means sometimes that, some days I just feel like grieving again. So I spend time, loving myself through that yet again. And we all have an area where we could focus a little to be a little more balanced. My downfall is that I'm real intellectual and I'm real spiritual, and I jealously guard those parts of my life, but I don't do the physical as well. It's way out of whack for me. So if I could just lighten up a little bit and on the other things and trust and flow, but you see, we lean into what it is that we favor in. You've got your routine, and I have mine. And we're all looking to just tap into that balance and find that center of wholeness in a better way. One of the things that happens that can be challenging can be subtly challenged. I don't think most people feel challenged by it. But listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Some people have a really high scale of empathy, and some people actually consider themselves empaths. I would suggest there are probably a whole bunch in this room because I think our teaching favors that. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say. If you know you are overly sensitive or that you feel other people's pain, then there's extra work that you are invited to do so that you can keep your own sense of balance. You can find a way to keep your feet on the ground and not then be leaning into the other person's problems or leaning into all the chaos in the world in such a way that you feel vulnerable to what's going on out there. So I know if some of you are studied and you've read the right books and you know how to do that, but here's what I'm looking at talking about today, and that is the empath has a very thin, it's a thin line between empathy and sympathy. And sympathy is when you're feeling somebody else's pain. When you are sympathizing, it's very easy to slip into, most people don't think about this, so don't argue for your limitation here. Most people don't realize that once you slip over into commiserating or awfulizing with the other person, you're not helping in a positive way, right? So there are still ways to be compassionate and kind and loving and supportive and listen to the other person. But we want to be really clear that what's going on for the other person or the world, and I think that's much harder, so if we could keep it where we can focus and practice, it might be easier, that you're safe. There's a Buddhist practice called Tonglen that I love, that I stumbled on this early on my spiritual path, And Tonglen is the practice of being able to show up when someone else is going through something traumatic or painful, and to allow the pain. This is the way I was taught Tonglen, to know that pain of the other cannot hurt me, and that I can take it with the knowing that as I open my compassionate heart, that receiving of that pain that will not hurt me can be transmuted in that somatic way in my body. I can transmute that pain, and that is where compassion is born from. This is why Buddhists understand compassion so much. This is why often we say the Buddha had to come before the Christ, because we had to have compassion before we could have love. So, to know that breath and intention and a spiritual practice of just breathing in and being confident that you are safe as you are grounded, then has a huge impact on whoever is sitting with you, whoever needs that compassion. I was in a hospital setting the very first time I ever used this practice, and my son, who was an adult and living on his own, he called me in the middle of the night. His dad was in another country somewhere probably. And I went to the hospital to be with him. His appendix had ruptured and he was in pain, and there was a man in the next bed who was having a procedure. The nurse came in and pulled that blind around his bed, and it blocked the exit. Otherwise, I would have run. I would not have been able to stay otherwise. And suddenly the man is just screaming in pain, and my son looks at me. I mean, yes, he's an adult, but he looks at me like, "Mom, help, this is awful." And I'm like, no, don't look at me. I don't want to be hearing this either. But I closed my eyes, and I, for the very first time, practiced Tonglen. I said to myself mentally, quietly, this man's pain cannot harm me. I'm going to breathe it in and help him be relieved of that pain. And when I did that, he calmed down. And so I have been absolutely convinced at that point that this is an important practice that anybody could use. But we have to pay attention. We have to find a way to quit being so sorry about everybody else's discord. And we can find languaging or even the way that we say it. But we are not broken. We are not broken. Holmes said, as we're looking at this idea, because the thing is, there are perfectionists. But perfectionism is a problem, but this is not a talk about perfectionism. This is a talk about redefining imperfection. And regarding that, Holmes said, you are some part of a divine whole. Empty yourself of any and every thought that denies this. The divine power of the invisible spirit is working in you here and now. I heard you say it in the prayer. I heard you sing it in the song. And the rest of us receive these ideas. The divine power of the invisible spirit is working in us here and now. In my little blog to promote the talk, I quoted this guy, Steve Maraboli, who wrote a book called Unapologetically You. Isn't that a good book title? Unapologetically You. And the second part of that book title says, stop trying to fix yourself. You ain't broken. Let's stop trying to fix ourselves, and let's stop trying to fix each other, and let's stop trying to save each other. Let's feel the pain together. Let's know that compassion is more powerful. It is a beautiful expression of love, and it gets any sense of brokenness taken away or filtered out so that the wholeness in the entire situation can benefit everybody involved. I want to say this. We have all been through stuff. There is nobody here that doesn't have a story or two. We probably have lots of stories. We've been through some hard knocks. The world is going through some hard knocks. But it is important for us to not identify ourselves by our wounds. We cannot identify ourselves by some mistake we made a long time ago. We want to look for new ways to interpret those little flecks of life that we might have considered imperfect once. And I think more than anything, what I feel right now as I glance at social media, and I do try and keep it to a glance because some of it's like, oh, hard. But I notice that it's feeling more and more important to me as a minister that we are willing to not define ourselves by the hurt that has been done to us or to our loved ones. One author that I bumped into in doing this research, a woman said, Jesus beckons us to our wholeness. And that kind of turned me on, even though I don't agree with the languaging. I wouldn't use it in my own life. But I thought, no, that really makes sense to me. Jesus beckons us to wholeness. Buddha beckons us to wholeness. Jehovah of the Old Testament beckons us to wholeness. Your angels are beckoning you right now into your wholeness. Your higher power beckons you to express your wholeness. Your horoscope, your personality profile, all those things are opportunities for us to step into. It doesn't matter what it is, because it's life itself that beckons us, that calls us, that invites us. There is a way for us to recalibrate our sense of balance in the world. Listen to this fabulous quote I found from a senior professor at Fuller Seminary in Pasadena, California, right by where I was born, long time ago. Professor Leslie Allen said these beautiful words: "Wholeness is a state of being in which our fractured hearts are mended. Wholeness is the empty well inside our soul that is filled with the love of God. And when we tap into that, we cease to seek looking to other people or possessions or anything outside of us to feel complete. When we are whole, we know that we are complete just the way we are, even with our flaws." So remember, there is something about each of us that is absolutely untouched by outer events. And when we recognize that, it's a lot easier to begin to reach for those spiritual tools that we've all been collecting for so many years now. When I started writing this message, I looked to see how Dr. Ernest Holmes would define perfection in the glossary of the Science of Mind textbook. And he's got a lot to say. And I'm not going to read it to you because it's heady. And if you're interested, you should look it up. I keep a Science of Mind textbook right on the table out there in the bookstore. But it's something you need to contemplate. Every short sentence has something valuable in it. But I do want to say that at the end of how he defined perfection, he said this: "The only way for us to experience wholeness is to see perfection that already exists, regardless of appearances." It's tricky, but it's wonderful advice. Judge not by what you think you see, because there's always so much more going on. So I'll leave you with this morning. The work that we are called to do, to remember again and again and again lies in this wonderful quote that somebody made into a song. I think you've maybe even performed it before. Words of Ernest Holmes, "There is one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect, and that life is my life now." That's what I wanted to remind you. One life. Take a deep, cleansing breath. In that way that we feed the body this gorgeous force of life. And allow yourself to just notice a lot has been said today. Things that might rile us and cause us to fight for our limitations, but this is the time where we recognize that right where we are, right here in this sacred space that we create in our attentiveness, is God. I feel and sense that powerful presence of God. And I know that it is the activity of life within us. It is the very center of each piece of the parts and pieces of the physical and the emotional and the mental and the spiritual. And in these holy words of prayer, we bring it all together so that we can feel the love of God at the core of our being. We can see how beautifully, just as the breath cleanses our body, that there is a healing when we allow these inspirational ideas to stir in our minds. There is a way that we are bringing ourselves back to center, revealing the wholeness in the general state of affairs of our very own lives, that we are participating in the creative process of our own experiences. So I feel that love, and I know it is the best inspiration, the motivation, that the way that activity of love desires to be expressed on this planet. And I remember yet again that it can only come through us. So we open ourselves to be vessels. We allow ourselves to remember that the grace of God is flowing. The constant givingness of Spirit itself is moving. And that grace is stimulating us. It is coming to us as a vessel, that we are the container, and we just allow God's sweet grace to fill us up, so that we are overflowing with the power and the presence and the renewal, the way that we can so perfectly return to love. For we remember this day, there is only one mind. It is God's mind. It is perfect, and it is ours. So we allow that sense of divine activity within us to be the very thing that reminds us of the healing force within us. That in this moment of looking to be recalibrated into a new sense of balance, that we bring into our life a substance, a quality that holds us up, that directs the way, and that makes the way before us clear. So I am grateful, for I know that as we look at the appearances of those things that seem to ail us or block us from our good, that in one simple memory of the presence of God right where we are, that what appears to be imperfect begins to reveal its perfection to us, and we see it with renewed vision, with cleared eyes, and we embody these great and mighty truths so that we can be a part of the great healing that is happening on this planet even now. So I bless this spiritual community. I bless the individuals that are listening to this prayer, knowing that it is in our receptivity that we are changed and we are renewed and we are transformed. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite spirit. How good it is to know that there is a God of perfection and goodness and pure love that is always for us and supporting us. And I release these words into the law, knowing it is done, and together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Thank you, Reverend Karen. That was extraordinary. Just touched my heart in so many ways, so thank you. It is time for us now to step into our time for giving and receiving. And if you have a, Jim, I didn't do the vision statement today. Oh well. We'll do it next week. If you will put your hand over your heart if you feel like it, and say the joyful giving affirmation with me. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And while we don't pass the basket, there's a box there as we go into Papke Hall, one back in the corner and one out at home space. Please drop your contributions in there. It is greatly appreciated and keeps us moving. So, take it away.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Sing that with me. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. Well, I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. And raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. Sing it with me. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. One more time. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Woo.
All right, so if you will repeat after me, I love myself.
I love myself
Exactly the way I am.
exactly the way I am.
The things I love,
The things I love,
the things that challenge,
the things that challenge
are all perfect parts of me.
are all perfect parts of me.